Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswati Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Samastajana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahmavidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam Paramanandamadhavam. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. So the Guru, Bhagavan Shri Adi Shankaracharya Ji, is trying to point out to the self, which is our real nature and which is the uninvolved witness consciousness, which remains even when all the five sheaths are negated. So when everything else is gone, still that which remains, illumining the absence of all, that is the self. So while explaining this concept, initially he explained it by the concept of sakshi, right? That the presence, absence, their functions, their modifications of all the upadhis is seen by whom? And that who is not seen by anything, that is called as sakshi, the ultimate seer. One who witnesses everything but nothing witnesses it. Then we also saw that it is called witness only with respect to something that it is witnessing. But since what it is witnessing is not real, it cannot be truly called as witness also. So what to call? We can just call consciousness. And then we also saw it witnesses everything, nothing witnesses it, and it witnesses itself also. Means what? It knows in itself intrinsically, not as some object. And this self remains even when the five sheaths are negated. Actually, even when the five sheaths exist, the self alone is there. That is what was mentioned last time we saw. Jagrat swapna shushuptishu sputataram yaha asau samujrambhate. That which clearly manifests in all the three states. Like what? Pratyagrupataya, as the inner self. Sada, always. Aham, iti antaspuranta. Spuran, ekadha. Continuously manifesting, shining inwardly as I. Ekadha, without changing. So it is not the I of ahankara, it is the I of consciousness, self. Why? Ekadha, it does not change. Ahankara changes with every vritti that it identifies. Right? We saw identifying with each kosha, it becomes that kosha. Identifying with each sharira, it becomes that sharira. Identifying with each vritti, it becomes the knower or doer of that. But ekadha means unchanging. Very important word here. The self also continuous spurana is happening. Continuously it is, manifesting its presence. I. It is not such manifestation is not there in stones, etc., inert objects, but in the living beings, that manifestation of the self is continuously there. And you see, it's in a manner of saying, we say I. Don't think that it is coming and going like the sound comes and goes. No, it is continuous manifestation. Right? And what does it do? It witnesses. What? Nana akara vikara bhajina iman ahandi mukhan pasyan. It sees. Ekada, without changing, it sees. Means what? It witnesses. What does it witness? It witnesses the various shapes and modifications of all the upadhis. Aham, ahankara, dhi, intellect, mukhan, etc. All the upadhis, their functions, their modifications, their changes, everything it witnesses, but ever remains unchanging consciousness. Nitya ānanda chidatmana spurati. It ever remains that satchidananda swarupa atma. That self, tam vidhi. Know that self. Because the pronoun that is used, don't think that it is far. Etam. That, this. What do you mean by that, this? Swam. It is our own self. Hriti vidhi. Realize it in your own heart. This was the very beautiful point which was mentioned. Now, he takes us to Pratibimbavada, where the explanation is given now. How, though I am always the Supreme Self, how I wrongly understand myself to be Jiva. So what is explained? There is a pot. Inside the pot there is a water. In that water the sun is getting reflected. It's a natural occurrence. But a fool misunderstands the reflection of sun in the water to be the actual sun. And then what? Then when the reflection is moving, you say the sun is moving. When the reflection is not there, you will say sun is not there. When you say reflection is not clear or hazy or distorted, you will say sun is like of that nature. But actually, sun is uninvolved, has nothing to do with all these things. A fool misunderstands the reflection to be the actual sun. Tatha, in the same way, jadaha, an ignorant person. What is this sun? Sun is the consciousness. What is the pot? Pot is the gross body. What is the water inside the pot? It is the subtle body. In that subtle body, the consciousness is getting reflected. An ignorant person considers that reflection of consciousness to be actual me. Who is the reflection of consciousness? It is ahankara. It is the jiva. It changes continuously. That is not me. But an ignorant person considers that to be me. Why? Bhrantya, due to delusion. And when that delusion goes away, we saw ghatam, jalam, tadgatam arkabimbam sarvam vihāya arkaha vinirikṣate. The person giving up pot, water, reflection of sun, giving up all these things, clearly sees the sun as what? Tatasthaha. Tatasthaha, uninvolved. Etat tritaya avabhasakaha, the illuminator of these three, ghata, jala and citpratibimbamevaṃ, arka pratibimba. The pot, the water and the reflection of sun. All these three are illuminated also by the same sun. Svayaṃ prakāśa, and it is not illumined by anything else. It manifests itself vidusha. By a wise person. Now, an ignorant person was considering the reflection of sun to be actual sun. A wise person gives up the pot, the water, the reflection of sun and actually experiences the sun which is apart, uninvolved, which is the illuminator of these three, and which itself is self-luminous. This much we had seen. Now, this is called as Pratibimbavada. We have seen. Bimba means sun, the actual object. Pratibimba means reflection of that object. So what is the Pratibimbavada? That sun remaining one, same, unchanging, hundreds of pots having water will have hundreds of reflections. So reflections appear to be many. Reflections appear to be different. In some pot, it will be a beautiful reflection. In some pot, if the water is not pure, then it will be a muddy reflection. Some pot, it will be a moving reflection. In some pot, it will be a beautiful pot, golden pot, silver pot. Some pot will be mud pot. Some pot will be broken pot. But all these are only differences in the reflection. The actual sun is same, one for all. In the same way, there are different gross bodies that are perceived because of delusion. In those gross bodies, there are subtle bodies like water. Some subtle bodies, mind, etc. Some are pure, some are impure, some are continuously changing, disturbed, some are calm. For some, the outer body is very, very beautiful, golden pot. Somewhere it is silver pot, somewhere it is copper pot, somewhere it is mud pot, somewhere it is broken pot. But all these distinctions are in the upadhis, in the pot and in the quality of the water. The actual self is one, same in all. Okay? As long as we focus on the reflection, we will see differences. The moment we realize the actual self is something different from this, we will realize the oneness. See, Vedanta is not talking impractical things. Vedanta is not telling that all reflections are same. No, they cannot be same. They cannot be same. Vedanta is saying that the reflections are of the same self. So reflections may be different, but the self is one and the same. Understanding? This is Pratibimbavada. Now, we have seen in the example how an intelligent person gives up the pot, the water and the reflection and actually sees the sun, which is tatastha, uninvolved, etatraya, tiritaya, avabhasaka, illuminator of these three things, and svayaṃ prakāśa and self-luminous. Now this example, draṣṭānta, has to be taken to the main topic, and that is called draṣṭāntika. You understand these words now? We have used this before. Draṣṭānta, example, draṣṭāntika, when that example is applied to the main topic. So draṣṭānta is explained so far. Now draṣṭāntika, the second part of draṣṭāntika, where from the ignorant person's point of view, both draṣṭānta and draṣṭāntika were explained. You see verse number 218. First line is draṣṭānta. Ghatodake bimbitam arkabimbam alokya mudha ravimeva manyate. A fool, seeing the reflection of water in the pot, considers that reflection itself to be the actual sun. This is draṣṭānta. Now draṣṭāntika explained in the next line. Tatha chidabhasam upadi samstam bhrantya ahamityeva jadaha abhimanyate. Jadaha, ignorant person, upadi samstam chidabhasam, the reflection of consciousness present in the subtle body, in the upadhi, bhrantya, due to delusion, ahamityeva abhimanyate, considers that reflection itself, reflection of consciousness itself to be the self. Now the other part of the example. You spoke about ignorant person or a fool. Now intelligent person, what is different? So we saw in the case of Example, now we have to see Drashṭāntika. So next verse, first line, 220. First line is explaining about the Drashṭāntika, and next line etc. continues with the nature of the self. Two verses we have to chant together. Let us see. Verses 220 and 221. 220 and 221. Let us read. dehaṃ dhiyaṃ citpratibimbamevaṃ
dehaṃ dhiyaṃ citpratibimbamevaṃ
visṛjya buddhau nihitaṃ guhāyām
visṛjya buddhau nihitaṃ guhāyām
draṣṭāramātmānamakhaṇḍabodhaṃ
draṣṭāramātmānamakhaṇḍabodhaṃ
sarvaprakāśaṃ sadasadvilakṣaṇam
sarvaprakāśaṃ sadasadvilakṣaṇam
nityaṃ vibhuṃ sarvagataṃ susūkṣmaṃ
nityaṃ vibhuṃ sarvagataṃ susūkṣmaṃ
antarbahiḥśūnyamananyamātmanaḥ
antarbahiḥśūnyamananyamātmanaḥ
vijñāya samyaṅnijarūpametat
vijñāya samyaṅnijarūpametat
pumān vipāpmā virajo vimṛtyuḥ
pumān vipāpmā virajo vimṛtyuḥ
dehaṃ dhiyaṃ citpratibimbamevaṃ visṛjya buddhau nihitaṃ guhāyām draṣṭāramātmānamakhaṇḍabodhaṃ sarvaprakāśaṃ sadasadvilakṣaṇam nityaṃ vibhuṃ sarvagataṃ susūkṣmaṃ antarbahiḥśūnyamananyamātmanaḥ vijñāya samyaṅnijarūpametat pumān vipāpmā virajo vimṛtyuḥ. Now what? Just as in the Drishtanta we saw that the intelligent person gives up three things. Ghata, pot, jala, water, and pratibimba, arka pratibimba. Means what? It gives up the pot, the water and the reflection of sun, and then realizes the actual sun is something different. In the same way, you see here, dehaṃ, gross body, dhiyaṃ, subtle body. So gross body is equated with pot, subtle body is equated with the water in that pot. Citpratibimbaṃ, and third is the reflection of consciousness. Evam visṛjya, giving up in this way. How it was explained in the Drishtanta, same way, giving up the gross body, the subtle body and the reflection of consciousness. Giving up means what? Understanding that I am not them. I am not the gross body, I am not the subtle body, I am not even the reflection of consciousness in the gross and subtle body, in the subtle body. That also I am not. Visṛjya nihitaṃ buddhau guhāyām nihitaṃ. Now what? Giving up this, one has to realize what is there, where it is. Buddhau guhāyām nihitaṃ, present in the cave, guha, of intellect or of heart, buddhau. So that which is present as my core self. The body, gross body, the subtle body, the reflection of consciousness are not core to me. They are upadhis, they are outside. They are not me. Giving up what is not me, now I come to essential me. And now the nature of this self is explained. Now please note what? Earlier also this topic had come. Osavanatma, paramaka atma. That paramaka atma, what is that supreme self? The nature of the self was explained. Now here the topic is tayor vivekachoodamani. How to distinguish between self and not self. The not self was explained as panchakosha, and the self was explained as the witness of that panchakosha, the distinct witness, uninvolved witness. Now that self is being explained here. Panchakosha explanation is over. Okay, so that self which remains as witness, that self's nature is explained now. Number one, first pointer is given what? That it is present in the cave of one's own heart. Means I don't have to go anywhere to experience this self. It is always with me. Why? It is me. I cannot even say it is always with me. It is not with, it is me. Actually, the body is not that intrinsic. Why? I may give up this body, take up another body. Mind also, intellect also, I can give up everything, but I cannot give up this self. Okay? Let us understand one concept. There is something called as swabhavika dharma and something is called as naimittika dharma. Swabhavika dharma means essential nature. Naimittika dharma means occasional properties. Let me explain. For sugar, sweetness is swabhavika dharma, essential property of sugar. Whereas cube, powder, these are naimittika dharma, occasional properties. Means what? Sometimes the sugar will be in the cube form, sometimes in powder form, sometimes in a big cube, whatever. But these are naimittika dharmas. These are properties which may change. Swabhavika dharma will not change. So, another example. For fire, heat is swabhavika dharma, essential property. Isn't it? Now that fire will be sometimes red, sometimes yellow, sometimes blue, that may change, but heat is essential. Now to call something as swabhavika dharma, 4 things are important. Let us analyze properly, now that we have got a chance to do that. Number 1, without that property, the object is not itself. Without the property, the object is not itself. Means what? You remove sweetness from sugar, sugar is not sugar. You remove heat from fire, fire is not fire. Right? So it is the essential property means what? It is that which makes it that. Number 2, this essential property cannot be given up and cannot be taken up by that object. Means what? Fire cannot give up heat and fire doesn't need to take heat from somewhere. Aheya anupadeya. In Shankara Bhashya, etc., Upanishad Shankara Bhashya, you will see these 2 words. Aheya, which cannot be given up. Anupadeya, which cannot be taken up. Aheya anupadeya. Second point. Third point. That essential property never becomes burden on that object. See, very beautiful analysis. What is said? The essential property never becomes burden on that object. Never becomes burden means what? The fire will never be tired that it is having heat. It will never have such kind of confusion. It is never burden on itself. And number 4, swabhavika dharma is that towards which the object goes naturally. Let me explain once more. For water, coolness or sapidity, the flowing nature is essential property of water. That's what makes water water. Isn't it? So, first, what was first? Without that property, without that thing is not that thing. Without which the water is not water. Second point was that it cannot be given up it cannot be taken up by that. Third point was it never becomes burden on itself. That property never becomes burden. And fourth, towards which it goes naturally. For example, suppose water, you heat it. Okay, now what you are doing? You are doing something against that water's nature. Correct? It is naturally not hot. Naturally, it is not in the vapor form. And therefore, the moment you keep that water as it is, it goes back to its nature. You can heat it, you can cool it also. You make the water into ice cube, let us say. Put it into fridge and keep it in the ice cube. Now you remove that ice cube and keep it on the ground. What will happen? It will go back to its nature. Why? Because this is forced circumstance. It is naimittika dharma. Occasional property which has come. But it will essentially go back to its nature. So the ice cube will again start to melt and go back to that sapidity. That is what will happen. Are you getting what is swabhavika dharma and what is naimittika dharma? Now, for us, deha, body, mind, intellect, we think that it is our swabhavika dharma. But it is not our svabhavika dharma. Why? Let us apply all the four things. Can I exist without the body? Can I exist without the body? Yes, I can. My hand is not functioning. Cut the hand, put another hand, it will work. Eyes are not functioning. Remove the eyes, put another eye, it will work. Forget about all those things. In my dream, this body is not there, but still I exist. In my deep sleep, mind is not there, still I exist. So without those things also I exist, which means they are not svabhavika dharma for me. They are not natural, intrinsic nature for me. Second point was what? First point was without that thing, it is not that thing. Correct? What was the second point? Second point was it cannot be given up and it cannot be taken up. But body, mind, intellect can be given up and can be taken up. In different states, I am taking different bodies, different mind. I am changing the body also at the end of life. That is also happening. So again, body, mind, intellect are not my svabhavika dharma. They become burden on me, you see. Svabhavika dharma never becomes burden on me, but they become burden on me. As the old age comes, we say, I am tired of this body. I want to just... When we walk a lot, then we ask also sometimes, can I keep my legs somewhere else? It's becoming too much. Head also sometimes, when it starts to pain so much, we say, I just wish that I can just keep the head somewhere and relax for some time. Why? It becomes burden on ourselves. Mind becomes burden on ourselves when it is going through turbulences and bad emotions and all these things. We get fed up with it. It becomes burden on ourselves. And is it natural? Do we naturally go back to being body, mind, intellect? No. And therefore, this body, mind, intellect, or even the reflection of consciousness, ahankara, is not my essential property, is not essential nature, not svabhavika dharma for me. Then what is my svabhavika dharma? That svabhavika dharma is explained now. All other things are naimittika dharma. At the moment I am functioning through this body, therefore the body becomes my instrument. And therefore somehow I feel that I am the body. That's not my essential nature. What is my essential nature? First pointer is given. That is seated in my own heart. It is present in the cave of my own heart. Now you see all the words which will be used now are indicators towards the swabhavika dharma, the intrinsic nature of the self. Intrinsic nature of the self, my actual nature. Who am I actually? That's what is being discussed. Right? Who am I? Draṣṭāram. I am the seer. Remember? The seer is capital here. Why? that sphere which never becomes seen. Nirapekshika drik. Remember? Mind and senses are sapekshika drik. Sometimes they are spheres, sometimes they are seen. Objects outside are nirapekshika drishya, always seen. But the Sakshi Chaitanya, the consciousness, the self is nirapekshika drik. Ever the seer. Therefore, draṣṭāram, it is the seer. Atmanam, it is the self. What do you mean it is the self? It is that which I cannot separate from myself. It is the most core thing to me. I can give up everything else, but not this. Aheyaṃ anupādi. I cannot give it up. Atmanam. Akhandabodhaṃ. It is unbroken knowledge, pure consciousness. Akhanda means absolute. Akhanda, without any break. Knowledge, K capital. By now you are understanding why I am saying K capital. Small k knowledge is when the intellect is knowing some object as a thought. That is called as knowledge. Knowledge of a watch, knowledge of a TV, knowledge of light, etc. Knowledge K capital means what? That consciousness which doesn't know as some thought, but it just is of that nature. Consciousness, that is called capital K knowledge. Akhandabodhaṃ, sarvaprakāśaṃ. Beautiful. It is the illuminator of all. Illuminator of all means what? It illumines everything. All the upadhis, their functions, their modifications, their presence, their absence, everything is illumined by this self. It is the illuminator of all. Sadasadvilakṣaṇam. It is distinct from gross and subtle. Sat and asat here means gross and subtle. Means it is neither the gross nor the subtle. Continued in the next verse. Nityaṃ. Nityaṃ, eternal. No beginning, no end. Right? We had seen before this, there was one doubt asked by the student that samsara will not end because jiva bhava is beginningless. At that time we had seen that jiva bhava, samsara, maya, all these are beginningless, but they have an end. Whereas the self is how? Beginningless and endless. All these things, maya, jiva, samsara, etc. are before time. The self is beyond time. Nityaṃ, eternal. Vibhuṃ, all pervading. All pervading. Sarvagataṃ, gone in everything. See how beautiful Shankaracharya ji is, how beautifully he is bringing these points. See, carefully note, okay? Nityaṃ is saying that it is not limited by time. Isn't it? Nityaṃ means that which is minus infinity and plus infinity, beginningless and endless. So not limited by time. Vibhuṃ, all pervasive means not limited by space. Correct? All pervasive means wherever you can think, it is already gone there. And by saying sarvagataṃ, it is saying that it is not limited by object. These three are limitations. Earlier also we have seen this, not a new concept. Desha parichheda, kala parichheda, vastu parichheda. Have we seen these concepts? Desha parichheda, we have seen. Desha parichheda means limitation by space. Means what? You look at my hand. Okay? It has got limitation in space. Means what? It starts from here and it ends here. So beyond this point, hand is not there. It's called desha parichheda. It has got limitation in space. It occupies a particular space alone. Kala parichheda means limitation in time. Means what? I have got birth date. and I will have death date. Date of birth, date of death. Means what? Before that point, this body was not there. After that point also, body will not be there. So that body has got what? Limitation in time. Kala paricheda. Understanding? Limitation in space, limitation in time. Desha paricheda and kala paricheda. Now, vastu paricheda is what? The vastu object. Object is, watch is one object, body is another object. Now, watch is not present in the body and the body is not present in the watch. So, the watch is having limitation of another object. It is limited by the presence of other object. At the same time, the watch also has got limitation by body. The body is limited because of watch. Watch is limited because of body. Why? Because they have limitation in by object. How is the self? The self is desha, kala, vastu, aparichinna, unlimited, not limited by space, not limited by time, not limited by object. That is what is explained in these three words. Nityaṃ, not limited in time, kala aparichinna. Vibhuṃ, all pervasive, means what? Not limited by space, desha aparichinna. And sarvagataṃ, it is gone in all objects, means what? It alone is as all objects, and therefore it doesn't have vastu paricheda, it doesn't have limitation by object. This is my intrinsic nature, this is my real nature. That I am not limited in time, not limited in space, and not limited in object. And that is the reason when we feel that we are limited in time, space or object, we feel uneasy. This fear of death is coming from where? That we feel that there will be a time when I won't exist. Why? Because existence is my natural quality or nature. I go back to that nature. Isn't it? We saw svabhavika dharma is something, we go back naturally to that svabhavika dharma. So when we understand that the body is not going to remain always, we feel uneasy. When we understand that the body cannot go everywhere, we feel uneasy. Very, you see how our mind works. Why? Because that's our natural state. When somewhere it is written, no, permission, entry prohibited. First place where people go and see what is there inside, why entry is prohibited there. Why? Because when it is told to you that you cannot go somewhere, you feel uneasy. Why? Because you are all pervasive. When they say that you can get this object but not that object, no, I want everything. What? I am everything. So my essential nature is that I am not limited in time, in space and in object. I am nitya, vibhuṃ and sarvagataṃ. See how beautifully Shankaracharya. See, now these are the things that we have to recognize. Otherwise we can just say nitya, eternal, vibhuṃ, all pervading, sarvagata, gone in everything and go forward. But see why Shankaracharya is using these words only. Because he wants to show. Another word for Atma is called Kevala Atma. Why Kevala? Because he is not limited by space, time and object. Right? How can it be all these things? Susūkṣmaṃ. Because it is extremely subtle. Extremely subtle means where the comparison of subtlety ends. Whatever you know as subtlest, self is subtler than that. Whatever you can call as sukṣma, sukṣmatara, sukṣmatama, extremely subtle, absolutely subtle, the self is susūkṣmaṃ. It is subtler than even that. So we say that the space is most pervasive. Self is more pervasive than the space also. And because it is more pervasive means it is most subtle. Self is subtler than the space also. Go. Susūkṣmaṃ. Whatever you can see as subtle, the self is subtler. Susūkṣmaṃ. Antaha bahihi shunyam. it doesn't have concept of inside and outside. See, with respect to body, we have concept of inside and outside, isn't it? Why? Because the body is limited in space. That's why there is inside outside. Room. Are you inside your home or outside your home? Vijñāya, we are inside the home. Where is this concept of inside outside coming? Because the home is limited in space. So there is space outside it, there is space inside it. But for the self, it is not limited by space, and therefore there is nothing, there is no concept of outside, inside for the self. But identifying with the body, we say this is the world, this is me. You see, this distinction of outside and inside, how we have done with respect to the body, with respect to the self, we cannot do that distinction. Antarbahiḥśūnyamananyamātmanaḥ. Atmanaḥ ananyam. Ananya means not different from the self. From that supreme self, it is not different. We are not saying that there are two things which are same. We are saying that there is only one thing. Atmanaḥ ananyam. Now you see, all these are in dvitiya vibhakti. See, right from nihitaṃ. You see, dehaṃ citpratibimbamevaṃ visṛjya. Visṛjya was one apurna kriya, having given up. Now the second apurna kriya comes here now, vijñāya. Can you see that? First word of the second line, verse number 221, vijñāya. Can you see? So before vijñāya, after visṛjya, whatever came, okay, everything is about self. Everything is in dvitiya vibhakti. Buddhau guhāyām nihitaṃ, draṣṭāramātmānamakhaṇḍabodhaṃ, akhāṇḍabodhaṃ, sarvaprakāśaṃ, sadasadvilakṣaṇam, nityaṃ, vibhuṃ, sarvagataṃ, susūkṣmaṃ, antarbahiḥśūnyamananyamātmanaḥ, ananyam. Vijñāya. Realizing this self. Atmanam vijñāya. So now you connect. Buddhau guhāyām nihitaṃ vijñāya. Draṣṭāram vijñāya. Atmanam vijñāya. Akhāṇḍabodhaṃ vijñāya. Like that. Or you connect all of them as visheshanas for Atma and connect it to vijñāya. Buddhau guhāyām nihitaṃ draṣṭāram akhāṇḍabodhaṃ sarvaprakāśaṃ sadasadvilakṣaṇam nityaṃ vibhuṃ sarvagataṃ susūkṣmaṃ antarbahiḥśūnyamananyamātmanam vijñāya. Realizing this self, how? Samyak vijñāya. Know it very well. That should be the clear experience. And are you vijñāya means knowing it as some object? No. nānyo'sti. Knowing that this is my own nature. In this way, realizing pumān, a person, vipāpmā, virajo, vimṛtyuḥ bhavati. That word we have to add. Bhavati means becomes. What? The pumān becomes that. What does the person become? Vipāpmā, free of papa, free of sins. Virajo, free of impurities. Rajas means impurity, dirt. Virajo, without any impurities. Vimṛtyuḥ, deathless, without death, free of death. That is what the person becomes. So two things are said here. Give up your identification with upadhis, realize your oneness with the self. You see, visṛjya, vijñāya, bhavati. Are you getting? Giving up the identification with body, mind, intellect, etc. Realizing one's nature as explained, as the self, as nitya, vibhuṃ, sarvagataṃ, etc. Realizing that, the person becomes free. Person is liberated. Okay? Detach, attach. Detach from the lower nature, from naimittika dharma, and attach to the higher nature. Attach to the higher nature means realize one's higher nature. Gurudev used to, Gurudev's style was it. He was different, what we can say. He used to say, what? Detach and attach. This is one way of saying. Another way you will say, what is that? I'm not getting now. Some two words he used to use. That you remove all your things, so become naked. What is that called? Embrace. Just give up everything and then realize that higher nature. Right? So what is the point explained here? What I am not, anatma, give up. What I am, realize. Are you getting? What I am not, give up. What I am, realize. What I am not, annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijñānamaya kosha, ānandaghano kosha. I am not this. Give up all that. Who am I? Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa Nitya Vibhuṃ Sarvagataṃ, that I am. Realize it. Right? If we are able to do this, we will become free. That is what he said. Now, is that over? No, it continues. So, actually, this pumān, vipāpmā, virajo, vimṛtyuḥ is continuing in the next verse also. Let us read. Verse number 222. viśoka ānandaghano vipaścit.
viśoka ānandaghano vipaścit.
svayaṃ kutaścinna bibheti kaśchit.
vivekachoodamani
nānyo'sti pantha bhavabandhamuktehe.
nānyo'sti pantha bhavabandhamuktehe.
vināsvatatvā vagamam mumukshoho.
vināsvatatvā vagamam mumukshoho.
visṛjya ānandaghano vipaścit. svayaṃ kutaścinna bibheti kaśchit. nānyo'sti pantha bhavabandhamuktehe. vināsvatatvā vagamam mumukshoho. Vishoka. Now that is continued. The person becomes free means what? He becomes vishoka. Vishoka, vigatashoka, where the sorrow is gone away. Vigatashoka, free of sorrow. Ānandaghano becomes the mass of bliss. Ānandaghano, full of bliss. Vipaścit, who is that? That wise person. Pumān. That pumān is this vipaścit. Vipaścit means one who has got that vijñāya. Such a person, svayaṃ, himself, kutaścinna bibheti. That person is not afraid of anything. Kutaścinna bibheti. Not afraid of anyone. And also, kaśchit anya. That kaśchit has to be connected with the next line. Kaśchit anyah panthaha bhavabandhamuktehe nānyo'sti. Oh my dear, there is no other path for liberation from samsara other than this. Means what? Without realizing your own nature, you cannot get liberated. But Vechi, there are so many paths. What? Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. We hear there are so many paths. Correct. All of them lead to this. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, or any other path, all have to lead to this realization of one's true nature. Without that, liberation is not possible. So for liberation, there is no other path other than realization. How do you realize that? That may be different. How do you reach there may be different, but you have to reach there to go for liberation. Nānya ki kaśchit panthaha bhavabandhamuktehe asti vina swatattva vagamam mumukshoho. There is only one path. So without that path there is nothing. What is that path? Mumukshoho, for the seeker of liberation, swatattva avagamam, realization of one's true nature. That is the only path. Without this path, there is no other path. So without realizing one's true nature, the seeker of liberation cannot get liberated. Clear? Okay. Now, tayor viveka katham. This is the topic. Okay. How to distinguish between the self and the non-self. Now, new topic is starting within that topic. What? All our queries that all of us have at any point of time are related only to three topics: Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. Either we have some doubts about ourselves. What kind of body is this? What kind of mind is this? What kind of intellect do I have? What is Karana Sharira? Who am I actually? Etc. Jiva, first topic. Second topic is Jagat, world. About world also we have lots and lots and lots of questions. Right? But the main question is how this world has come. Who has created this world? What is the substratum of the world? How is the world continuing? And third topic is Ishvara. Who is God? Where is He? How is He? How does He look? Is He all pervasive or is He somewhere in the heaven? Can He change my prarabdha or can He not change my prarabdha? Etc. etc. Various kinds of questions we have. Now, so far the analysis we did was related to Jiva. Correct? Panchakosha, Atma, Anatma, Viveka. All this is related to me. Body, pranas, mind, intellect, ānandaghano. And then, apart from all this, is the pure self, which is of the nature that is explained just now in about 2 verses, which is me actually. So, analysis is done in that way. Right? Now, sometimes the analysis might be done in another way. Means what? Jagat and Ishvara. In other words, in the Upanishads, there are the most important statements of the Upanishads are called as Mahavakya. Mahavakya concept also we have seen earlier. Mahavakya means great statements. Tattvamasi, aham brahmasmi, prajnanam brahma, ayam atma brahma, tattvameva tat, etc. etc. Plenty of Mahavakyas are there in Upanishads, in Bhagavad Gita. What is this Mahavakya? We have seen earlier, Mahavakya is identity revealing statement. The statement that shows that me, the individual, and that supreme are one and the same. Now, though we are one and the same, there are 2 words used. Atman or Atma and Brahman, Brahma. They are 2 words for same thing. Only when we are going through the Tvam Pada Vichara. What is Tvam Pada Vichara? Let us take Tat Tvamasi as Mahavakya. Tat means that. Tvam means you. Asi means you are that. So Tat shows that Brahman aspect or Ishvara aspect. Tvam shows you or the individual aspect. And Asi shows the oneness. So every Mahavakya will have these 3 components. The individual aspect, the total aspect, and the identity aspect. Getting it? So Tvam Pada Vichara is inquiring into individual aspect. Vichara. Tat Pada Vichara is inquiring into the totality of aspect. Not individual, now the total aspect. And Asi Pada Vichara is the inquiry into their oneness. Are you following so far? Tvam pada vichara, tat pada vichara and asi pada vichara. Now, broadly classified, Bhagavad Gita 18 chapters are divided into 3 sections. 6 chapters each. So, chapters 1 to 6 actually is Tvam pada vichara, about individual. So, the Karma Yoga, Jnana Karma Sannyasa, Sankhya, Dhyana, all pertaining to the individual. Chapters 7 to 12 are Tat pada vichara, are explaining about the total, about the Lord. What is the nature of the Lord? What is his para-prakriti, apara-prakriti? How to reach that God? What kind of nature does it have? Sopadika nature, nirupadika nature. How that same Lord is through all the world. Vibhuti, 10th chapter. How everything is in him only, 11th chapter. And how to reach him through devotion, 12th chapter. You see? So 7 to 12 chapters, 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are explaining about that Lord. Tat pada vichara. And last 6 chapters, 13 to 18, are showing the oneness. Now here also, the question was tayor vivekah katham. How to distinguish between the self and the not self. Correct. Now we have done the tvam pada vichara. Tvam pada vichara is over. Tat pada vichara is now, will start after 2 verses. So in between the tvam pada vichara and tat pada vichara, now the oneness is shown. Asi pada vichara is happening now in next 2 verses. So, we use sometimes in Vedanta the words Atman, Atma and Brahma. Understand they are one and the same, but with respect to individual we use the word Atma. And with respect to totality we use the word Brahma. Essentially they are one and the same. So, while distinguishing ourselves from our upadhis, we will say Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Why? Because I am not the gross body, subtle body, causal body. I am not any of the koshas. Atma, Anatma, Viveka. But we had also seen in the definition of bandha, what is bandha? Anatmani atma buddhihi jagati satya buddhihi. Remember? What is bondage? Bondage is considering the self to be not self and considering the world to be real. So the analysis, to come out of that bondage, you have to do analysis in both. So for the individual, what is explained? That I am the self and not the not self. That tvam pada vichara is over. Tat pada vichara is understanding how that Brahman is the substratum of the world. So the concept of Jagat and Ishvara will come there, which will be explained. Now before that, what is explained? This Atma, the essential nature of the individual, is same as Brahman, the essential nature of total. So Brahma, Atma, Aikya, oneness of that Brahman and Atman is shown now in next 2 verses. Okay? Shown means it is just said that it is like this. Okay? And then the Tat pada vichara will start. Inquiring into the totality will start. Okay? Let us read verse number 223. Very simple verses. Loose connection is there with the headphone. Brahmabhinnatva vijñānam.
Brahmabhinnatva vijñānam.
Bhavamokṣasya kāranam.
Bhavamokṣasya kāranam.
Yenādvitiyaṃānandam.
Yenādvitiyaṃānandam.
Brahma sampadyate buddhau.
Brahma sampadyate buddhau.
Brahmabhinnatva vijñānam. Bhavamokṣasya kāranam. Yenādvitiyaṃānandam. Brahma sampadyate buddhau. Very, very beautiful and clearly explained. What is said? Brahma, see, first time the word Brahman is used here. In this entire topic, if you see the topic that started 149 onwards, word Brahman was not used. Only Atman, 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 and how that Atman is different from the koshas. Now what? Brahma abhinnatva vijñānam. The realization of Brahman being non-different from me. So right now what I have understood, that I am not the body, mind, intellect, but I am the supreme consciousness. I must also understand that this consciousness is that supreme Brahman, the reality of the entire world. So not only it is the essential nature of the self, but I am essential nature of that Brahman. Brahma abhinnatva vijñānam bhava mokshasya karanam is the cause for liberation from samsara. So knowing that supreme Brahman to be myself, this is called as Brahma Atma Aikya. By that alone, samsara will end. Yena, by which advitiyam non-dual, anandam, bliss, Brahman, supreme reality, buddhau sampadyate, a wise attains. By this Brahma abhinnatva vijñāna, by this realization of me being non-different from Brahman, the wise attains oneness with Brahman. Means what? Brahmavit brahmaiva bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Why? Because the knower of Brahman knows that Brahman not as some object, but as one's own self. And therefore, knower of Brahman becomes one with Brahman. So essentially, the self and Brahman are not different. And the wise person understands this oneness, and therefore he becomes Brahman. Okay, therefore, what? Next verse, verse number 224. Brahma bhutastu samsrityai
ब्रह्मभूतस्तु संसृत्यै
vidvān nāvartate punaha
द्वानावर्तते पुनः
vijñātavyamatas samyak
विज्ञातव्यमतः सम्यक्
brahma bhinnatvamatmanaḥ
ब्रह्मा भिन्नत्वमात्मनः
ब्रह्मभूतस्तु संसृत्यै विद्वान् नावर्तते पुनः विज्ञातव्यमतः सम्यक् ब्रह्मा भिन्नत्वमात्मनः. ब्रह्मभूतः विद्वान् तु विद्वान्, wise person. Brahmabhuta, who has become Brahman. Who has become Brahman? The previous verse explained. One who understands that Brahman as one's own self becomes Brahman. Now that wise person, samsrityai na avartate punaha, does not come back to samsara. So once you realize your oneness with Brahman, you become liberated. You never return back to samsara. Ataha, therefore, samyak vijñātavyam, it should be realized well. What should be realized well? Atmanaha brahma abhinnatvam. The identity or non-difference of the self with the Supreme Brahman. Abhinnatva. Abhinnatva means oneness, identity. See, again I am telling you, Atman and Brahman are not two things which are identical. No, they are one and one alone. And that's why the adjective used in the previous verse was advitiyam, non-dual. These are not two things which are identical. Please don't get confused. We can have two objects which are identical but they are different. No, this is one thing which is perceived or which is explained through two different ways. It is one. Atmanah Brahma Abhinnatvam. And that's why the word Abhinnatva is used. Samyatvam is not said. It is not said that understand the similarity of Brahman and Atman. No, Atman and Brahman are not similar. Why? Because similar means there are two things which are same. No. Atmanah Brahma Abhinnatvam. They are non-different. They are not similar. They are one and the same. The person who is father of his son is also son of his father. So you can say in him the fatherhood and sonhood have come together. But the person is one and the same. He is called father by his son and he is called son by his father. But he is one and the same. That same reality is called Atman with respect to individual, Brahman with respect to total, but they are one and the same. One who understands, realizes oneness of the self with that Brahman never comes back to samsara, and therefore this oneness should be known. Now automatically the question will be, Vedji, so far we have understood what is Atman. Now you are telling me that Atman should be understood as one with Brahman. Please explain me what is Brahman. That is what is explained in the next verse onwards. Tatpada vichara begins. Satyam jnanam anantam brahma, etc. it begins. What is Brahman? That is now explained. How it is the essence of the entire world? That is explained. Tatpada vichara begins now. Okay, beautiful section coming up. So, tayor vivekah katham. That is the question, last question we are answering out of the 7 questions. Remember, in that, this section 149 till 224, till what we have completed so far, these many verses are about tvam pada vichara and asipada vichara, because it is in one verse it is explained. So, tvam pada vichara is explanation of individual. Panchakosha Viveka was the methodology used. Now the section begins 225 to 240. 225 to 240 is what is Tatpada Vichara. Clear? Okay. It's been long since we have not had doubt clarification session. So in the next session we will do doubt clarification. Okay. I had explained 2 classes back also that we will soon be having doubt clarification. Now that we have covered sufficient portion, we will have doubt clarification and then we will continue with the Tatpada Vichara. Alright, 1 class, 2 classes, whatever it takes, according to how many doubts are there. According to that we will decide. Alright, sure. We will conclude. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.